Big exciting news as progress in your second stimulus package continues to move forward as Nancy Pelosi's reassured that the president comes up with a higher number. It's closer to her number. It's good news. Steve Mnuchin's back negotiating with Nancy Pelosi. That's also really good news. To which she also says, well, the person making me the offer is crazy. The person making the offer to me should not be serving in the office of president. The person making me the offer to give me my stimulus package has no idea what he's doing. The person making me the offer who ultimately has to sign the bill shouldn't be sitting in the office of the president where he'll be signing the bill. If this sounds a little bit crazy, then you've tuned in for the right channel. This is Afternoons LALATE. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Afternoons LALATE in a special 2-hour programming block in which, for the first time ever, I will really be covering all the facets of why the negotiations are becoming so complex today. This is always hazard pay, and I will be covering hazard pay in this video, but in this video, I will be adding the additional wrinkle of why Nancy Pelosi has now made the negotiations even more complex with the 25th Amendment. Go to the front of this channel, subscribe. Subscribe because I try to make things very complicated, very easy for you. Also, like this video. In this afternoon's LALATE block of programming today, I started with check. This video will be hazard pay, but will also focus on why the 25th Amendment is not a good thing to be bringing up when you're trying to get a deal with the person on the other side of the table. After this video, 30 minutes after this, will be the twist that Mitch McConnell's now adding, with saying, I don't think that a deal will be hatched for several weeks, even though I want a deal to be done right away. And finally, Pelosi versus Mnuchin. In this video specifically, I will be going over why the deal is needed right away, who needs the deal. That's the first issue. Second, why big business versus small business has been lost in this discussion and the negotiations. And third, the Romney plan. But first, let me start with really what's the biggest issue today. Stimulus checks, $1,200 individuals, $2,400 checks, married couple. Checks for dependents. At the moment, it's still at $500, which is not particularly that great. It should be $1,200. What's really good is that everyone who didn't get a stimulus check the first time around, that it was a dependent, will get a stimulus check this time around. But at the moment, both the Republicans and Democrats are proposing $500. That's not particularly good. It should be $1,200. Next, the Problem Solvers bill proposed multiple stimulus checks, one now and a second one in March. The president said he supported the Problem Solvers bill. But Steve Mnuchin, who also said his proposal would mirror the Problem Solvers bill, did not. It didn't have a second stimulus check in it. And Nancy Pelosi, who has done everything she can to give money to state and local, has also done everything she can to not give you a second, third, or fourth stimulus check. You were entitled to a first stimulus check under CARES Act 1, one for March, April, May, June, and July. Multiple stimulus checks you're entitled to. Nancy took it out. Then over in the Senate, Harris and Sanders introduced a multiple stimulus package deal. A stimulus check every month for $2,000 for 6 months until the pandemic improved or unemployment went down. And so what did Nancy and her group try to do? They tried to make it only one check so that there was a lot of money for everything but you. And guess what's happening this time around? The same thing. Now, what's also really a big issue today is the issue of who needs this stimulus. And this was actually a big topic of discussion on morning broadcast financial news. There seems to be a disconnect. This is what I call the bifurcation, and it came up yet again today. Jim Cramer, anchor on CNBC, said the stock market is not indicative of who needs stimulus. Ultimately, if you wake up and see, oh, Walmart traded up, oh, Target traded nicely, oh, Home Depot's stock price is going up, That's not indicative of who needs stimulus. The stock market doesn't show it, but the people absolutely need stimulus, said Jim Cramer Friday. This isn't a Republican or Democratic thing. It doesn't know who has been laid off or who has been laid off or not is about to be laid off, frankly. The people need it. The stock market doesn't show it, but the people absolutely need it, said Jim Cramer. What's interesting is that Jim Cramer's comments mirror my comments for several days, and what's deeply troubling is reports that the president really focuses his attention on stimulus based upon how the stock market's going. Now, big business versus small business, this is really quite an interesting facet, because when we talk about stimulus checks, when we talk about second stimulus, we talk about single moms that have raising a family of 3, or husband and wives with a newborn kid, or a person on SSDI, SSI, Social Security, and railroad benefits who's dependent on someone else's tax return, didn't get a first stimulus check, is waiting for the second one. Or we're talking about a new kid out of college that has a job but got laid off. Well, those people need stimulus. And as Jim Cramer referred to in his analysis this morning, when you look at a company like Darden Restaurants, which is a publicly traded company that owns Olive Garden, everyone knows Olive Garden, its stock price is absolutely up 300% because it doesn't need stimulus. It's been able to modify its operations to ensure that it can make a lot of money during the pandemic, and it has. McDonald's has made a fortune during this pandemic and continues to do so. But across the country, mom and pop restaurants are closing. Mom and pop hardware stores are closing. They can't compete any more than they could compete before because they don't have the liquidity of the financial markets to give them money. Next, the Romney Plan. The Romney Plan remains singularly the most important thing for us to push as we continue our focus on hazard pay. Hazard pay is not in anybody's bill currently, but there are provisions that are hazard pay-ish and other provisions that give you hazard pay-like money. Let me go over those first before I get to Romney. First, there is a provision of Nancy's bill that pays essential workers a grant. Pays them a grant. It's not $10,000, but it is a grant, and it's a good sum of money. Second, there's an EIDL grant in Nancy's bill, and that is a bill that a provision that Steve Mnuchin supports as well. As the first provision, it's believed that Steve Mnuchin supports that provision additionally. Third, $10,000, that hazard pay provision under the HEROES Act, gone. Nancy ripped it out. She ripped it out to give more money to state and local. That's not good, Nancy. Steve Mnuchin, on the other hand, Republicans have never put hazard pay in their bill. It's not a Republican platform. It's a Democratic one. Well, until Nancy took it out. There is that exception when a Republican wrote it in a bill standalone by itself. It's called the Romney Plan, and Mitt Romney has been silent through this entire thing. Mitt Romney, you need to push Purple Power. Push Mitt Romney to speak up and say Americans need, essential workers need relief. Mitt Romney wrote an essential workers hazard pay bill. And ultimately we may sit here and say, well, that's not going to get merged into Nancy or Steve's bill. But what is being changed are the provisions. And the provisions need to be changed to include something like Romney's bill, and Mitt Romney is the person to argue for it. It's a Republican proposal by a Republican senator that gives relief to everyone despite whether they're Republican or Democrat. How does it work? 1, the employer would have to get you the money. 2, the money would be anything you worked during this pandemic, whether you're been hired or fired, laid off, terminated, brought back, anything and all that. It's money they would be paid to get for and be required to get for you. And this is incredibly great news. Next, what's not incredibly great news, and this is certainly a topic of this special 2-hour programming block today, is this thing that Nancy is doing, and I'm bringing it up in this video. 25th Amendment. 25th Amendment is really one of the biggest distractions she could possibly unleash at a time in which everyone's trying to get to the finish line. How dare you do that, Nancy? It's just not the time and place. Now, here's a lot of things we could say about this. 1, she could have brought up the 25th Amendment 25 months ago. She's bringing it up today as soon as the stimulus package negotiations reconvene. Come on, Nancy. 2, you can do the 25th Amendment anytime you want to do it. Can we do it after we get our stimulus packages? It's sort of, important we get our stimulus packages. 3, the entire evoking of the 25th Amendment today is sort of contradictory because ultimately if she wants $2.2 trillion given to her state and local, guess who has to sign the bill? The president. The president has to sign anything into law. It doesn't become law until it passes the House, it passes the Senate, and the president signs it. Well, guess what? The person she thinks is crazy and needs to be removed from the office of presidency is the person she's wanting to sign her own bill. Contradictory, Nancy. Last, there's a lot of people on this channel that certainly believe that the president is not the one that should be evoked upon for the 25th Amendment. You can drop your comments below. I'd love to read them tomorrow. Next, how is the 25th Amendment just a further manifestation of political theater that Americans are just sort of tired at this point about? Absolutely. What was the broad stroke discussion on financial news channels today is that Wall Street's tired of the confusions that it was first a standalone bill, a narrowly tailored bill, a big bill, a small bill, a bill before the election, a bill after the election. It's really unclear as we sit here today when this bill would actually become a law, if it could. Would it be before the election? Would it be after the election? Why has the president not done executive orders? And as we sit here today, no one, including myself, has an explanation why the president has not done executive orders. Someone dropped in the comments, it's because he can't. Oh, that's not true. That's categorically untrue. Why hasn't he done it months ago? That's not clear. Why did the president suddenly today said, I want to give a bigger stimulus package than even the Republicans and Democrats? Is this sort of just manifesting that you're more important than other people? Is this sort of a manifestation of I'm better than everyone else? Or do you really intend to do it? The president has said such language before when he said, I want to give a bigger stimulus check than the Democrats, more generous. Well, he didn't. He proposed stimulus checks that were smaller than theirs. They wanted to do a family of five at $1,200, $6,000. He proposed $3,800 in a tweet several weeks ago. It's with that a lot of people are wondering how this can be turned into a positive. As we go into the weekend, it's less than a week ago that Nancy Pelosi said, 1, a deal was imminent. 2, telling airlines don't fire anyone. The deal will be done really quickly, right away. 3rd, don't come back to me unless you have more money. Well, we're coming back to you with more money, says the White House. And now her response is, you're crazy. I need the 25th Amendment for you. 4th, people just don't understand why Trump is following Nancy's path and not doing executive orders. And that ultimately Nancy just may create an incredible wall in front of the president, say, you know what, thank you for doing this and doing this and doing this, but I'm not doing anything because I want Joe Biden to win. Let me answer some of your 750 questions from yesterday, and they were incredible. Person, her hatred for Trump overrules anything else. Jamie, no stimulus, no vote. Dennis, airline should cut all flights to Pelosi and McConnell's district. And also Cruz and Paul. Helen, I don't see anyone that cares for the people. Adam, so stupid, round and round we go. Kevin, why doesn't he just sign the executive order for stimulus checks? Does he realize he's hurting these re-election chances? Malia, good evening, everyone. I think the president needs to sign an executive order. Marcia, Nancy has to go. Another Nancy. Oh, that was Marcia. This one's Nancy. Not the same Nancy for the show. Why should a private airline get anything compared to other businesses? Who's to prove Nancy's fancy hair in bed? Jackie, okay, no one is getting anything so far. Same old different day. Cynthia, I'm just dizzy from this bad circus act. Eva, the American people can't afford to fly anytime. Catherine, we should start our own protests, all of them. I'm just sick of hearing the same thing from these cruel people. Diane, how much longer can we stand by? People need to live. Anitra, Nancy's tried to prove she has more power than anyone in the White House. She needs to be removed. Kim, put Nancy in a tent like some people had to do. Abby, go for negotiations, separate agreements, bills, comparative whole bill. More is less, better is less. Someone needs to negotiate lower. Kay Misensky, it should be the law that something like this happens. Everyone in the government and offices should be paid the same amount as the people that are on unemployment. Then maybe they'll understand how we were dealing with this. I love that. Khalil, okay, so how do the people get her out of her chair? She really is crazy. Michael Branch, Lowe's was one of the stores that was open during the shutdown, and Walmart just sent all their money back to China. Joseph, $1,200, the same thing. We should need 6 to 7 months of checks. We got zilch. I just said that. It's a day like this that we really come together, and Purple Power, you got to do their thing. Go to the French channel and really make sure that you're focused. Purple Power, executive orders for the president. Purple Power, a cease for stimulus. Purple Power. Make it very clear that, We love some theater, but we don't want political theater. Let's get it done and let's get to the finish line. Go to the finish channel, subscribe. Subscribe because there's a lot of twists and turns in a day like this. And you see why it takes an entire video to explain the situation. And coming up next is another video, and that is the Mitch McConnell factor. He showed today that he is really one of the most important cogs in the spinning wheel to get to second stimulus check. Also like this video. Coming up next is that Mitch McConnell video in what's usually the unemployment video section. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and save LA for more.